Hello, my name is Dr. Calynn Lawrence, and I am the founder of the Holistic Healing Source for Marginalized Society. I'm a board certified forensic traumatologist and a doctorally prepared pastoral counselor. I look forward to getting into this lesson with you. Thank you for joining us. Let's jump right into it. Let me share my screen. Servant Leadership 101: How to support your team with compassion, communication, clarity, and commitment. In today's rapidly evolving workplace, traditional top down command and control management styles are increasingly being replaced by approaches that prioritize human connection, ethical conduct, and mutual growth. Chief among these transformative approaches is servant leadership. Originally introduced into contemporary social organizations by Robert Greenleaf in the 1970s, servant leadership is a comprehensive practice that starts with a fundamental intent to serve, which subsequently flows into a motivation to lead and empower others. Instead of utilizing positional authority to lord over employees, servant leaders prioritize community stewardship and the personal and professional growth of their followers. Whether you are a person who is managing a small corporate team, a public service organization, or a large non governmental organization, mastering the tenets of servant leadership can drastically improve your team's engagement, innovation, and overall success. Building a supportive environment requires a deep commitment to compassion, communication, clarity, and dedication. Here is a comprehensive guide to understanding and applying the principles of servant leadership to effectively support your team. The core tenets of servant leadership. Servant leadership is not simply a vague philosophy of being quote unquote nice to your employees. It is a measurable, multidimensional behavioral construct. Research identifies several distinct characteristics that define a servant leader's orientation towards others rather than toward self interest. To effectively support your team, you must understand and cultivate these core competencies. Empowerment. This refers to a consistent effort to grow and develop individuals both personally and professionally. It includes transferring accountability to individuals to make them more autonomous and activating their unique talents so they can flourish. Standing back. A servant leader puts interests of others above their own. They take responsibility when problems occur, but willingly step back to give credit to others once a task is successfully completed. Accountability. Accountability in servant leadership is prospective and developmental rather than backward looking and punitive. It involves setting clear objectives and holding others accountable while continuously monitoring their performance to enable growth. Forgiveness. This is the ability to forgive others for past mistakes without holding a grudge, thereby allowing employees to take calculated risks and learn from their errors. Courage. Servant leaders possess the willingness to stand up for what is right despite hardships and take calculated risks for the benefit of others. Authenticity. This involves showing genuine intentions and motivations to others without hiding one's true self. Authentic leaders behave consistently, acknowledging their own developmental areas and learning from criticism. Humility. Humility is defined as being modest, self aware, and maintaining a proper perspective on one's own strengths while focusing on personal development. Stewardship. A servant leader acts as a caretaker of the belongings and interests of others, protecting the common good in organizations and society to leave a constructive legacy. Compassion and commitment. Prioritizing employee well-being. At the heart of servant leadership is a profound compassion for the people who make up the organization. Servant leaders take responsibility for creating opportunities for the interests and development of employees, valuing their contributions, and investing significantly in their workforce. By prioritizing the needs of subordinates and supporting their skills development, these leaders create environments that foster a sense of empowerment and inclusivity. This commitment to employee well being directly impacts how engaged a team is with their work. Work engagement represents a dynamic interaction between individuals and organizations, characterized by high levels of enthusiasm and energy. When organizations implement well being oriented human resource management practices, such as employment security, formal training, and job quality, servant leadership acts as a crucial moderator that amplifies the positive effects of these practices on employee engagement. Servant leaders mitigate negative perceptions by reassuring employees about the benefits of their work and showing deep dedication to their personal growth. Furthermore, a compassionate leader embraces emotional healing and forgiveness. By forgiving past mistakes without holding grudges, managers cultivate an organizational climate of openness and trust that encourages innovation and sustainable high performance. Communication and clarity, building trust and reducing politics. A significant barrier to team success is the presence of organizational politics, which is characterized by self interest, manipulation, and the pursuit of individual agendas at the expenses of others. Employees who perceive a high degree of organizational politics driven by favoritism and injustice often lose faith in that system. This negative atmosphere leads workers to question the fairness of the organization and withdraw from extra role activities. Servant leadership provides a powerful antidote to a toxic, highly political environment. Servant leaders emphasize fairness, transparency, and ethical decision making, which drastically reduces employees' perceptions of political behaviors such as self interest and favoritism. By encouraging a culture that values transparent and open communication, servant leaders build deep trust with their employees. When employees perceive their leaders as trustworthy and believe that decisions are made with integrity and fairness, their perceptions of organizational politics are minimized. This clarity is heavily reinforced by how servant leaders handle accountability. Servant leaders establish clear performance standards, making responsibilities explicit and creating structures within which followers can exercise and develop their own judgment. By modeling transparent responsibility, the leader provides an evaluative architecture that the team ultimately absorbs into its collective climate. Cultivating organizational citizenship and innovation. When a team is supported by a servant leader, the benefits echo throughout the organization in the form of enhanced innovation and organizational citizenship behavior, or OCB. OCB refers to extra role employee acts that are not formally acknowledged or rewarded by the organization, but fundamentally contribute to its effective functioning, such as volunteering for extra tasks or helping a colleague with a heavy workload. Servant leaders promote OCB by acting as highly visible role models for their subordinates. When employees observe their leader consistently displaying empathy, humility, and integrity, they are inspired to adopt these traits themselves. If a servant leader routinely goes out of their way to assist others, employees feel psychologically encouraged to engage in a similar pro social citizenship behavior. In addition to fostering a cooperative environment, servant leadership stimulates innovative work behavior. Innovative work behavior is the process of consciously developing, presenting, and performing new concepts in the workplace to improve performance. Engaged employees, supported by well being oriented HR practices and a servant leader, exhibit higher motivation and dedicate positive emotional and cognitive effort to their tasks. This heightened involvement encourages a culture of continuous improvement where employees proactively explore new ideas and exhibit a willingness to experiment and adopt innovative solutions. Implementing servant leadership, training and team dynamics. Transitioning to a servant leadership model requires intentional effort and development. Organizations can utilize targeted interventions such as interactive classroom training, experiential challenges, and self reflection exercises to cultivate servant leadership behaviors in their managers. Research evaluating such interventions has shown that short term targeted programs can significantly and rapidly enhance specific servant leadership competencies like empowerment, stewardship, and forgiveness. However, it is important to recognize that behavioral change is nuanced. Certain servant leadership traits that are deeply rooted in personal identity, such as humility, courage, authenticity, and standing back, may not change immediately after a short term intervention. Shifting from prideful to humble behavior or from fearful to courageous behavior often requires more in depth life experiences, longer term continuous development, and complex cognitive behavioral processes to fully mature. Organizations must commit to persistent long term leadership development rather than expecting overnight transformations. Interestingly, the ultimate goal of servant leadership is to build a team so strong and aligned that the leader's direct daily intervention becomes functionally less necessary, a concept known as leadership substitution. When a team develops strong team identification, internalizing collective goals and emotional attachment to them, it fulfills the motivational alignment ordinarily provided by a leader's empowerment. When a team develops a strong, reflexive team climate, shared norms of constructive critique and evaluative scrutiny, it fulfills the normative structure ordinarily provided by a leader's accountability and stewardship. In highly mature teams, the joint presence of strong team identification and team climate can successfully substitute for formal servant leadership, freeing the leader's finite relational energy for higher order strategic and boundary spanning functions. While junior staff heavily rely on the direct standalone support of a servant leader to achieve success, senior staff and mature teams can achieve project success through these system driven team level resources. In conclusion, servant leadership represents a profound shift from managing for compliance to leading for growth and mutual success. By committing to compassion, communication, and clarity, servant leaders foster an environment where employees feel valued, secure, and deeply engaged. Through the modeling of ethical behavior, transparency, and accountability, servant leaders diminish toxic organizational politics and inspire their teams to engage in collaborative citizenship and innovative problem solving. While cultivating deep traits like humility and courage takes time, the investment yields a resilient, self sufficient team capable of achieving sustainable long term success. By placing the needs of your team first, you ultimately elevate the entire organization. And here are the references. Thank you for listening.